Yeah.
Really?
I can't. I was thinking that.
We are here for
This is the
remembering Grandma Gunther
Right.
in Holland, Michigan.
They might have done that. I don't even know about it. You never said anything.
No, it's really more like 9 a.m. There's Caroline and Chris.
Here we are.
Here we are. There's Marilyn in the back of John Vanderwall. Tom. Martha.
No, we're tidy to go. Sleep in the tent last night.
Stewie.
Did you have an earful?
Andrew and
Did you get pictures outside?
No.
How did it go? Were you guys warming up?
There you go. Everybody ready for smoked fish?
John just like a smoked chicken.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, I remember coming here with you. All we do is have smoked fish at
Why, John, you angel. I'm telling you.
I was in Ludington yesterday. There's this great smokehouse we go to.
Poor Kelly.
Did you see what he brought?
It's another one. It's actually a guy who sells it.
John was up in Ludington before. And his friend. Well, he was actually in Chicago.
Yeah, I don't know.
He
Maybe a
went
big
to
pickle
Ludington
party.
to visit his friend. And this guy does this.
Yeah, do whatever we got.
Went out and bought
Got napkins, got powder.
better touch it.
Oh, yeah.
The next table.
Might as well wait till
I think if her friends can come. That'd be great.
Yeah.
You don't
Couple
go.
more.
So.
Yeah. Probably August.
Yeah.
Crazy. We're real excited. I'd like to be able to Bob just went to New York to Healing the Children. He did the Dominican airlift and picked up like 2 kids from New York. He's on the board, so he got to go do that. He had just a blast. He said it was so fun, you know, just to be involved in that. So he told me, he goes, I want you to bring Dixon home next time. So maybe, down here. Yeah. Because I haven't, you know, I haven't done with any of the other kids, but if he was here 6 months and then if he comes back for 4, 5, 6 again, you know, that's a lot of cash to get us a year. And so, yeah, I'm thinking. No, we've got a lot of kids.
When you
right
got
now
the kid
from-
operating that thing there?
Yeah, she's working it.
She knows how to do all that kind of stuff?
Oh, she knows how to do.
We said, come on, and Grandma went to get Stuart, and Stuart was
Had a temper
no
tantrum.
temper
He was
tantrum, and
Focus on.
he kind of kicked Grandma in the shins and almost knocked her down. According to Chuck, he laid her flat, but I don't think it gets larger and larger as the years go on.
And Chuck loves this
Poor
story.
Stuart doesn't even remember.
Right, Stuart doesn't even remember doing it.
Does Chuck still work for you?
Yes. So I hear it all the time.
Well, we're hoping he will marry
Stuart.
especially the one he's going with right now.
Okay, Chris, you're next. Oh, John, you have anything to say?
Yeah, I remember, I don't know how many years ago, it was at Grandma's, I think, her 90th birthday.
Oh, yeah.
We were at not your house now, the other house.
Kyle
Right.
Court.
And all the grandkids were only about this big. Remember her sitting in that rocking chair. And she wasn't saying a whole lot, but she was smiling. And I think she really enjoyed that moment. It was pretty neat. Of course, all the kids were over here. I think all of them were. That's kind of what I remember.
Standing around like angels.
Yep.
Yeah, East Grandma Manor. She like had that boyfriend, Reinhard or something.
And we invited them to come.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Grandma wouldn't
They
sit by
held-
him, but she
It was John Jipping, who was a very nice man. Everybody loved him and thought he was great. And Grandma started to get a little sweet on John Jipping.
Later in life.
Yeah, later in life at Rest
At
Haven.
Rest Haven,
Because
yeah.
they were both in
I
Rest
have a
Haven.
picture
We
of
come
her,
there
she
and
and
they
John.
sitting on the bench in the summertime side.
She likes little girls better than little
Yeah,
boys.
she let us get away with a lot. Yeah, we did a lot there. Yeah, those were great.
But
She
that's
was
the
always
girls
the kind
got
of-
away with
Yeah,
a
not
lot. But
the
the
boys.
boys
Not
got
the
away
boys.
with nothing. She used to meet John at the back door and she'd say, "Hi, John. We're having this and this and this for dinner tonight, and you better eat it all."
John!
And then she'd tell the boys, she'd tell the
Take your
girls,
shoes off.
"Yeah, take your shoes off and don't sit on the couch. You boys can sit on the floor."
Well, yeah, and the girls could go upstairs and play in the bedrooms, but the boys had to go to the basement.
And the girls even went up there and got in Grandma's powder and spilled powder all over
Yeah.
her bedroom and
And she
everything.
didn't care.
But the boys couldn't put a fingerprint on
Yeah,
it.
but I don't remember ever feeling like I was treated that way for some reason, and I think I don't know. I
Didn't mean anything.
well,
That's because they were painted red.
right. But yeah, I don't remember that much. I remember about the house and the surroundings and everything. But I always remember Grandma she used to tie a neckerchief around her neck in a little knot, and she had rosy cheeks, and she had a wisp of white hair that kind of corkscrewed out.
That was right after her perm. Those perms didn't hold real well.
Not
One
real
time
well.
I took Grandma up to the cottage. This was long after Grandpa died. I took her up to the cottage. Well, Ken was there too. And we stopped to eat supper. And she saw this big sign. Their special for the night was fried perch. Oh, boy, that's what I'm having. The waitress came up and said, "Can I have your order?" She says, "I'll have the fried perch." She said, "Oh, we just ran out." Grandma stood up and went, I looked at her, the waitress jumped back. Ken says, "Mother, sit down." The waitress says, "What's wrong?" Grandma said, "That was just what I was going to order." That was Grandma. She let her feelings be known.
But she liked fish.
Oh, she
She-
loved fish.
Every time she visited us in our apartment at Ramblewood, she would have me go buy smelt and then deep fry it because I got a deep fryer for a wedding gift, and so we'd always deep fry that smelt. And she would eat 2-3 pounds of that. And one night, for some reason, our deep fryer caught fire. And Grandma was there, and she just went crazy like that, just going crazy. And Bob carried it outside, and Grandma grabbed a big batch of snow and threw it on the deep fryer. Well, that's the worst thing to do, and it just went like, boom! And our next door neighbor ran out when he heard the explosion, and he doused the fire with his leather coat. If you can believe it. But it was so funny. Grandma she was so fixed on wanting that fish, she could not eat anything but whenever she came over, she had to have that.
I remember one time, we talked about fishing. We were on the pier at Ottawa Beach fishing. Then it was with Grandma. And it was one of these real quiet days, you know. There wasn't even a lap of water moving. It was just absolutely still. And the fish weren't biting either. And everybody was sitting there just quiet. And all of a sudden, Mother got a strike, and she pulled that pole up in the air, and she had a nice big perch on. She got about halfway to her, and it flipped off the line, and she screamed, "Oh, shit!" And, you know, it just shook up the whole pier. Then she tried to crawl down one of those little manholes.
You know that lady? I don't know.
That's the only foul word I ever heard.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think I've ever heard of it.
And then her mother, Grandma Slim, she would
told
break
me
a
she said
dish.
it.
She would break a dish, and that was what came out. Oh, skeet. Yeah, but she would say it in the regular English way. But that's the only thing you ever heard people say that were that way.
But they knew that word.
Yeah.
Her language.
For me,
Cheryl must have gotten her language from the other side.
The basement, you could eat off of it, and you could go down there and make metwurst, and she'd clean it up. I mean, it was always really clean. I remember how distraught she was when that fire was in her kitchen. Remember that? That was really, because her kitchen, besides, I mean, she let Grandpa mash potatoes, but the rest of it was kind of her domain. And then I always remember linen always feeling so soft. Like when she would make us draw a line up the middle of the bed, so we wouldn't cross over, and then she'd tell us, my 3 boys slept in this bed, you know, now you girls can share this space, you know. She put this invisible line up there. But then she was really into linen older too, and then it kind of made me laugh because that's all she did in the nursing home was fold. But
rearrange.
Yeah. But when just before she lost it, she would come to our house and she'd just beg me for wash to fold. I mean, I remember saving baskets of laundry because she was going to come and visit. She'd sit out on our back porch, even on Griswold Street, and fold stuff because she liked it.
When we lived down the street, when we lived down the street from her on 21st Street, you know, she used to come over and of course then we had diapers, and she would just love it if I had washed.
She loved to smooth
Well, and
things
she
out.
liked hanging them on the line too. She'd do that. And one
Very
time,
simple pleasure.
we got a load of kindling because it was a coal furnace, and we'd start it with. And she said, "So you got kindling today?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Shall we throw it in the basement?" And I said, "Are you kidding?" And she said, "No, then Lloyd wouldn't have to do that when he gets home from work." I said, "Not me. It's not my department. I don't throw kindling into the coal bin." And she said, "Well, I'll do it then." I said, "Okay, go ahead." I thought, son of a gun,
Yeah,
she
she
liked
did.
it, and she trimmed trees. She got up in those trees and trimmed them. I said, "That's ridiculous." But there are 2 things that I just think were so funny with Grandma. The one was when we first bought the cottage on Lake Michigan, Rob came with a tape for me because he knew that I liked
Frank Sinatra,
Frank
New York.
Sinatra, New York, New York. So he put it on. He said, "Mom, I got this for you." And I said, "Oh, great," you know. And Bob walks over to Grandma and he said, "Can I have this dance?" And she just about collapsed. She was so embarrassed and scared and whatnot. He said, "Come on, Grandma." And so he danced her around
And
the
we all
living
danced
room.
her around
And
the
then
outside of it while they were
Aaron
dancing.
was about so high, and you said, "Come on, Aaron, dance with Mother." And after it was over with, you could tell she was just as pleased as punch. That's the only time she ever danced. I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it. It was just in the living room. Then the other thing I think about, she was so embarrassed and funny. When Rob and Lee were married, and we went into that hotel dining room, she was sitting with Lee's grandma and her Aunt Helen. And we were still taking pictures in the church. So when we got to that table, it was late. And Aunt Helen and Grandma Olkey had already had Manhattan, a brandy Manhattan. So, well, when we got there, they came around and they said, would you like something to drink?" "Yeah, I suppose, you know," she said. And they said, "Would you like what we have?" "Yeah." she never had a Manhattan. She didn't know what a Manhattan was. She drank that Manhattan, and I'll tell you, she was ready to fly. They came with, then we did have wine, empty wine glasses. See, we all bought each other's drinks, the hard stuff, but we had wine. And she looked at that server, put her hand over that wine glass. She said, "No more for me." So I figure that's the first time she ever danced and the first time she ever had a Manhattan.
And all in your presence.
Yeah, right.
What an interesting
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you another thing. She said one time, remember when she thought everybody was stealing from her in Rest Haven? And you know, we went there and found money tucked away. And she kept saying there's somebody comes in her room, and I said, "Oh, bullshit, Grandma, there's nobody comes in this room at night."
Well, we were a little bit agitated.
And
by
she
that
said
time.
to me, "You better watch out. You better not say things like that, or they'll never let you into Rest Haven when you get older." I said, "Good."
There's a reason for that.
I said, "Good." I said, because I'd have to have a bottle of booze stuck in the toilet tank if I was in this place, so I could have a drink before dinner. Boy, that really rocked her. She was upset that I had said that bullshit. Nobody is coming in this room.
When Mother and Dad would be at the table, and us kids were there on there, they used to talk to each other about things that they didn't want us to hear. So the Mother would Dutch and Dad would German, and they could understand each other perfect. It was amazing. But the thing is that I finally reading all of this stuff about the background, I find out that the Verlies, which was Grandma Slink's name before she was married, was born in Germany, and it was this town of Graskop. So Graskop, Germany, and Graskop, Netherlands is the two backgrounds of the family. And so, Rod, that ought to tell you something.
Well, and Grandpa, of course, from Dusseldorf.
Huh?
Grandpa was from Dusseldorf.
Yeah. The old saying about Grandpa is that his grandfather was a guard for the Kaiser, and they had a picture of him on a white horse in the parade in Dusseldorf, Germany.
Okay, any grandchildren, great-grandchildren, I mean, want to say anything?
Yeah, the big shots ought to keep them out.
Martha, do you have anything? Yeah.
Well, I just remember when we were all at our house for Christmas or something, and all of us kids were just out rolling around in the snow or whatever. She all gave us a dish full of candy or something. I don't really remember, what it was all about. I just remember she gave us all one.
That's basically all I
What about when we visited her at the home?
She kept on trying to feed her dog.
And the bunny.
Her bunny.
Imaginary food.
No, it was real food.
It was real food?
Yeah. It was
Was
like
it
pushed
eating?
up, baby.
And then it had all food all over its face and everything all dried up.
The poor bunny that she kept showing me this bunny, and she said, "Look at its legs. I don't think it's ever gonna walk."
She was trying to potty train her.
She really wanted it to go on the toilet.
Oh, this is getting bad.
Hey, the grandkids are doing great. Keep going.
Well, she told us once when we went to visit her, she said, "I'm here to work." And she said, "If they don't start giving me more work, I'm leaving." And Ken said, "Well, where are you going to go?" She said, "See that woods right over there?" She says, "Ma's farm's right behind that woods." She says, "All I have to do is walk over there." She could use me. She could use me on the farm. So all this folding her clothes and feeding her bunny, and yeah, she really thought she was.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
I remember when John and I were in our interesting stage of life, and hair down here and hair down here, and all the relatives are kind of like, and Grandma Gunther was really, she just kind of was drawn to us or something. I don't know, maybe we were just a fascination to her, a curiosity, but we started talking. She knew we lived up in the mountains, you know, we were farming some, and she just, that was the instant thing, the farming and the gardening. And she just loved to talk about all that, different ways of gardening, or raising tomatoes, you know, all the little pieces of advice about that. And I just remember talking, then a number of times, that was our topic of conversation. If we saw each other, we'd sit and talk gardening, and it was...
Oh yeah, well she mentioned a number of times that she'd like to come down and see you.
See our place.
Yeah.
Because I think the farm thing, it made her feel comfortable.
Yeah, yeah.
Caroline, this is going to be interesting for you. One time, Mother and I were to visit Grandma, and she opened the door and she said, "Did you hear? Did you hear?" We said, "Hear what, Mother?" "My white horse died. My white horse died." We said, "You've got to be kidding me." "No,
We
it
kind of
drowned.
played along with it.
It drowned." And we said,
in that pool by the restroom.
By the restroom. And we wanted to know whether we heard that. We said, "No, no." Well, she said, "He really did, and I'm sorry, and I feel terrible about it because it was just the most beautiful, nicest horse we ever had." And so later on, we go and visit another uncle who's a couple
Visit her
years
brother,
younger
Gary,
than
Uncle
she is,
Gary.
and we said to this, we told Uncle Gary this, and he said, "You know what? Your mother did have a white horse, and it did die, and she was so, you know, so
They revert
downhearted
back.
because that horse had died. She just loved that animal, and so there was something back there in the back of that cranium that kind of came forward, and it was a white horse, and it died that day we arrived there, but it was not that way."
Well, we have to move on, and so we're gonna go to the cemetery and just make a circle like this and say a prayer.
I don't
And I was
think
thinking
everybody's
that,
gonna go.
I know, not
Wait,
everybody.
wait.
That's what I was gonna say. But anyway, I just wanted to say that when I thought about her this past week, that she was such a worrier, and I was doing devotions with my kids in school, and what a worrier she was, and I thought she didn't really worry about big stuff. She worried about, you know, little things more, but it kind of also, I think God used her as her worry to lead her to be a warrior for prayer too. And I always felt really, really confident that every single person in this circle was covered by her every day.
Oh.
I mean, for sure.
By
Every day.
name. She
By
probably
name.
went
You
to-
bet.
I want to tell you,
You bet.
this is what I wanted to close this with. When Uncle Art and Uncle Ken and I got out of the service and we got together for the first time, that's the one thing that came up, and Art was the one that's initials that they said it. He says, "You know, Mother, we all know Mother prayed a lot, and there was strength in our being out there knowing that Mother was praying for us." And that was one of the biggest things that ever hit me, is when Art said that and Ken was in full agreement, right? So that's our grandma.
I found a little thing in her envelope here too that she wrote. I thought it was kind of neat. It said, file on her? Yeah, my file. Turning it into the fireplace today, but it said, "God needed one more angel child amid his shining band, and so he bent with loving care and clasped one darling hand." So I thought, that's kind of neat.
She copied stuff like that.
Yeah, she wrote
And she
this,
would
and
send
on
it.
the other side it says September Martha 14, September Maryland 11, and then it's got a -12. State Farm, phone, pay bill, pay phone. But she, you know, it's just really neat, and she has a phone number that's got way too many numbers on it. You know how she got always mixed up on that. And I have to read you one more thing since he's not here, but I thought this was so cute. "Dear Grandpa and Grandma, thank you very much for your Christmas gift of $2. I needed the money very much, and I will use it wisely. Love, Jim." And then it says, "P.S. Art left Sunday for his 2-week New York trip. Hope we will be able to get together when he returns. Love, Marge."
Is there a date on that?
No!
That's neat.
I just thought I had to read that too. That was kind of great.
That's right. She did always send us $2.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't
Yes.
burn it up. Just
I
keep it
know.
in the file stuff.
I know. Her monument cost $135 for someone in 1938.
No, that was for Grandpa.
Grandpa.
Grandpa, and then the funeral home put her date on.
Isn't that cool?
this
should
winter.
see how
And that was
Grandma died-
$90.
Grandma died on December 4th. And Grandpa's birthday was December 5.
Whose baby?
Grandpa died on the 11th, didn't he?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
birthday, yeah.
Right.
But the other thing that keeps entering my mind is that if Mother had lived
I bet her parents had a baby that
30
died.
more, 20 some more days, the
Must have
marker
been,
in the
right?
graveyard would have had 1897 to 1997. And that would have been kind of a neat thing to have that 100-year span engraved on the stone, but it didn't get that way.
I should have. Here,
Oh, you got a picture of Grandma?
Yeah, that's Grandma's picture. And you know, I have, not that anybody really wants this, but Lloyd sorted some pictures out
Of Grandma at
of
different
Grandma
ages
and
with
everybody.
different kids.
And I do have 3 of these, if anybody is interested. 3 of those little, is that the same?
Yeah.
If somebody would want them. And I have to show, you don't have to look through these, but there are a couple of them that are so cute of the kids when they were little. Well, here's one. Here's one of Marge. And that must be Kristen. Or Christian. Yeah.
Easter, right.
This is the one I love, Marge. Remember this? Remember
that?
John and
In
here. Yeah.
John and Marilyn in your first little house.
You have pictures.
Yeah. Look, John. Your folks' first house, and you and Marilyn were standing by the door.
We have that.
Isn't that cute?
We're darn cute, aren't we?
Another one too that I wanted to marry.
That's me.
Unless somebody else wanted it.
Think.
Oh, maybe that'd be a
You care for one.
Well, I thought maybe,
Flattering John.
Go ahead. 'Cause
I was much cuter then than I am now.
people to take pictures.
Can I get that to the Manises, or do we have relatives in there?
Bexford, yeah, where Edie Manis. Well, yeah,
Is that
because
the
that's
Edie
why
that
we.
I know?
Pardon?
That can't be. It's got to be a.
Oh, Lloyd wrote that because Edith was the teacher there, and he used to.
hey guys, how about if we just make our circle again and have to say the Lord's Prayer together here? Then if people leave, it will be, we won't have to be, I mean, if we want to go to the cemetery, we can, but then we don't have to. Somebody just went in the back.
Here, this is the one. Look, this is Jim and Marilyn. And Grandpa and Grandma.
George, you wash your hands?
We've got that one.
Did you wash your hands?
Yeah, right.
You got those out of sink in there.
You know what your mother did?
Hands are nice and warm, and mine are so
The old man of the
I wanna get this.
organization, I'll start it. Our Father, who art
Lord in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever.
Amen. Squeeze each other's hands.
Right.
Well, God bless all of you.
Mini reunion.
Oh, here's Grandma and her boyfriend. Here's John Jippy. That's John Jippy.
That's John Jippy.
Look, isn't that cute?
He was hot.
She was. She loved him. Remember, Marge loved her.
Say, Drew.
Now, is she Bill Biles' aunt? Is that right? Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, here you are, Marge. She dances at 10, and so, but they...
Paper is. The paper, the white paper is edible. Yeah, not the red paper.
Oh, come on.
No, it is.
No, it's not.
I'll eat it. Here. That's true. I kid you not. Taste it.
taste it.
It's not edible. It's,
It is too.
It's got
He gives
a
me a-
flavor to it.
Yeah, flavor, but
It's edible.
No,
I
it
swear.
doesn't dissolve.
Yeah, I'll go. Yeah, it does. I swear.
Half a piece or whole?
Well,
It doesn't matter to me. Whatever
paper
you wanna
could
give
be
me.
edible. I mean, it's not.
Come on, here, I'll eat it. Just to prove
It's just a wood product.
They're not. I thought.
Right here, my ink pen's edible too.
I mean, could eat anything.
We'll tell you when it's coming up. John's gonna. Yeah.
It's the building where Grandpa Gunther used to work.
The double doors in the center of the building there. His machinery. His machinery was right inside those double doors.
What kind of machinery?